Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to CAN TV on Channel 21. You are watching a live call-in show, so feel free to dial us up with any questions or comments during the show. The number is at the bottom of your screen, 312-738-1060. My name is Alice Merrifield, and joining me this evening is Christine Szewczyk. We represent Beacon Therapeutic Diagnostic and Treatment Center. Just a little background on me. I've worked at Beacon for 11 years now, starting out as the clinical manager of our elementary school and then at the high school. Since then, I've moved into more clinical administrative work for all the programs. Before that, I worked as a therapist treating children and families where there had been some incidences of physical and sexual abuse for about 13 years. Beacon Therapeutic was founded in 1968 as a therapeutic day school and has expanded to include both outpatient and homeless outreach services, and has been empowering at-risk children and families by providing educational, mental health, and social services for years. Here's some of our contact information. You can see our business office is located on 103rd Street in the Beverly neighborhood. We have a campus on Longwood, also in the Beverly neighborhood, that has our outpatient programs, our elementary school, and our intensive outpatient programs. On Western Avenue, we have our homeless outreach services, and our Calumet Park campus is our high school and junior high. I'm delighted to have Christine as a guest on our show tonight. Christine is the clinical manager at our high school, our junior high and senior high school in Cal Park. In addition to the classroom work, students have the opportunity to learn job skills suitable for their functioning level. They work towards improving their behaviors with the ultimate goal of transitioning into adulthood. Could be going to college, could be getting a job, or back into a regular high school. So thank you for joining me this evening, Christine.
Sure.
So what was your previous experience and how did it lead to your role at Beacon?
Well, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and previously I worked in an outpatient setting, so I've done individual therapy with children, adults, families, couples, and groups. I've also worked in an adult day program. I came to Beacon about a year ago, and I came to Beacon because I liked the atmosphere, I liked the people, and I wanted to work in a more specialized setting because I enjoy working with adolescents.
Great, great. What special skills or interests do you think you bring to the program?
I think a lot of my previous experiences in terms of working with adolescents, I've previous to working at Beacon, done a lot of individual work with adolescents, as well as had some supervisory work that has helped me in my role at Beacon. I've had a lot of different experiences working with mood disorders, anxiety disorders, trauma issues, as well as grief issues, among other things.
Great, great. Can you please describe for our audience the eligibility criteria and the services offered at our high school?
Basically, our school is for students that haven't been as successful in a traditional high school setting. So typically, all of our students have an individualized educational program, or an IEP. And that basically means that they have some sort of emotional or behavioral issue and possibly a learning issue, depending on the student. And if a student has an IEP and it indicates that they require a therapeutic placement, then we would be a good fit for them educationally.
Okay. What are some of the particular needs of the population that you serve at the junior high school and the students you're working with?
There are a variety of needs, I think, with our students. Many of them come from backgrounds that have been challenging. Some of them have been in foster care. Some of them have been gang affiliated. Some of them have witnessed violence, had past traumatic experiences, and a lot of them have different mental health issues. So again, some of them have mood disorders, anxiety disorders, post-traumatic stress. Some of them have attention deficit disorder, issues that interfere with their day-to-day functioning and then also interfere with their functioning in a classroom.
Okay. Can you describe for our viewers the philosophy of care utilized at the high school?
We basically use a relationship-based model, and so our goal is to build and develop relationships with each of our students, because each student is a unique person and they all have a lot to offer, and we want to get to know them as people so that we can intervene with them as people. We basically also use what's called a solid object model. all of our staff want to provide consistency and support. When things occur, we want to be reliable and dependable and show the students that there is something consistent in their life. And so we take that approach, and we let them have natural consequences to behaviors and things that they do. We allow them to if they break something, they have to maybe clean it up versus punishing them in some other way. We try to be very positive, supportive, and prepare them also just for the real world.
Okay. I'm just going to put up a little picture, and this is in our gym, which is through the Calumet Park Rec Center, some of the students during gym time. So anyway, while we're looking at that, can you just talk a little bit about what your role is at the high school? Many people are familiar with the role of the principal and what the principal does in a school, but most people don't know what a clinical manager does, and most therapeutic schools have clinical managers. So can you just sort of talk about that role and how it relates to the principal role?
As the clinical manager, I oversee the behavioral and the clinical therapeutic staff. So just as the principal oversees the educational staff, the teachers and the teaching assistants, I oversee the staff that are providing more social emotional support. So the roles are somewhat similar, and they're also compatible because we have to work together in order to accomplish the goals for the students.
Great. Can you describe the leadership team at the high school? And again, I'm going to post a picture while you're talking.
Well, there's myself, the clinical manager. We have Dr. Joan Gross, who is the principal of our school. We have Javon Veal, who is the educational coordinator, and her role is basically to assist students with their individualized educational plans, as well as testing to make sure that they're meeting all of their educational goals and are earning their credits so that they're able to graduate or transition back to a regular high school setting. We also have Lavorne Black, who is the Dean of Student Services. He is basically plays an integral role in the reintegration process, which is when a student transitions from our school back to a regular school setting. And he also takes care of other issues as well, such as making sure students have their schedules and are, again, on track academically. He helps out with our behavior team as well. Finally, we have Carrie Patterson, who is the vocational coordinator. Carrie runs the jobs program, which we'll talk about, I think, a little bit. She is also involved in transitioning, so she assists students in the process of graduating high school and finding employment in the real world once they're out of high school.
And I know that she does something that's sort of, or the team actually does something that's sort of special for all their graduates. When students graduate, don't they leave with like a packet? Can you talk a little bit about what's in the packet?
They basically get materials, I think, from a lot of different resources. So it might be from Carrie or from their therapist. They receive information about different schools, about different jobs. A lot of times, too, what they do is more hands-on. So Ms. Patterson or one of the therapists is going to take a student to a community college to look at the program, to see the campus, to look at the application process, or take them even to a job site to apply, to interview. So a lot of the support is also hands-on. And the staff are taking students out into the community to assist them, which I think is a huge help. And also shows the student then how to access those resources on their own, which they might not always be able to do.
And in the last few years, Beacon started giving each student a flash drive, right? And then the flash drive also has their resume on it and a lot of the information that they need to...
The flash drives have been really helpful because what we're also doing is helping students make sure students are computer savvy. So we're making sure that they know how to create a resume, that they're able to update that resume, that they're able to save other documents, and then they have that they can use at home, they can use at school. And so it's also, I think, helping bring them into technology and keeping them up to date with technology.
And some of our students have a difficult time getting kind of organized, so it also helps them like have one place where they have the things that they need to apply for jobs and to go on interviews.
Exactly. We encourage them to keep it all together. And, we talk about the importance of organization and having all of your phone numbers together, having all of your contacts together. And it's some of those skills that people don't always understand, or that they're the basic building blocks of of being successful.
Okay. And actually, while we're talking about graduation, why don't I put a picture up of one of our recent graduates from last fall, who was quite the charmer.
Definitely. And you can see that in that picture.
Yes, you can. So, can you talk a little bit about the vocational program and different levels, and how students get into the program, and what happens and what do they learn during the vocational program?
The students in the vocational program have 4 options in terms of levels, and they start at the first level, which is basically working on site. So they're working within the school, and they might be doing different tasks around the school. They might be doing some clerical work, some work around the building, and they're interacting with their fellow students as well as the staff. And then the next level of our vocational program is to be working out of the building, but still supervised by our staff. So there's still very close supervision at that level of the program, but the students are actually outside the building. So then the next level up is to be working outside the building in a local community area, but to have intermittent supervision, so the supervisor is not there at all times and it's a little more independent. And then finally, students have the option of working in the community with littler supervision, that maybe the supervisor calls and touches base that way, but it's not, the supervisor is not on site, nor are they on site really, frequently.
And what kind of, can you just talk a little bit about the kind of job sites that Beacon has?
Sure. We partner with the recreation center that is near our property, which is a wonderful facility. And so a lot of our students will go there and will work there. So they're nearby the school, but they're still responsible for being somewhat independent in that site. We also have students who work at the senior center nearby, which is another great resource, and I think that's a good place for students to learn to connect with other people as well. Right. It gives them those skills in addition to just the basic job skills that they can learn. And then finally, we've even had students go over to the police department and assist over there, which has been a really unique opportunity, and I think again gives them some good skills and good experience outside of the school.
That's wonderful. How is the vocational program funded? Do you know, or?
Well, the vocation, from what I know, we do receive a grant, right. And so it is grant based, and then the salaries, or I should say, the stipend or the wage that the student earns comes out of that grant.
So there's the grant from the Department of Rehabilitative Services and the grant from WGN that help fund that, and then in addition Beacon puts sizable amount of money into paying the students. So yes. Can you talk a little bit about how you feel the vocational program really helps our students, and how does it impact things like their attendance at school, their performance in school? I mean, how do you see participation in the vocational program change a student?
I think it really plays a huge role. I've seen it firsthand with many different students. I think having the job provides them motivation to have really solid attendance, because they are first and foremost earning a paycheck. I think, though, it helps them develop a sense of responsibility, that it's important that they're there that day to do certain things. And I think giving them that responsibility helps them internalize what responsibility is, and then creates motivation going forward to pursue bigger responsibilities. I've seen a lot of students who take their job very seriously. I think that it's a very positive sign of status at the school. If you're able to be employed, it shows you're on the right track, and I think a lot of students aspire to it. I think a lot of the younger students look up to the older students and see them, and it's something to be proud of if you're in the work program, and I think that that's a great culture that we have motivationally.
I know that back when I was over at the high school, it used to, we would see one of the students enter into the vocational program, and I'd say within 2-3 months, you'd start to see just some really strong changes. Now, they weren't always able to maintain those changes, and some of them could, some of them couldn't, but you would just see that sense of pride, and they sort of stand up more and straighter and walk around, and it was always really neat to watch. So, without naming any names, can you relate a recent success story from Beacon High School?
Sure. We've had several students do wonderfully this year. We've had many who have gone back to a school part-time. One that I can think of in particular started at our school in the fall, and in the meantime, from the time that she started in the fall until now, she has made a lot of gains. I think in her classroom, she's overcome some challenges. She's been able to speak her mind, and we've seen her be assertive and be positive. Additionally, she's been able to reintegrate part-time, meaning she can go back to her public high school for part of the day and then also be at our school for part of the day. And she also has participated in the work program. So she's sort of utilized the different resources we have and sort of gone through the process. And she is on schedule to return full-time to a public school because she's doing very well there.
Will she return in the fall, or will she?
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Can you sort of describe a little bit more about, I mean, there's a lot of collaboration that goes on between the educational and the clinical parts of the program. And also we have collaborations with the local police as well.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about how those collaborations work together to deal with student behavior?
Well, I think in a lot of cases we are utilizing all three resources, or all of the resources, the teachers, the therapy team, and clinical staff, as well as the police. We have had situations in which we've had to have people come together at the table and possibly meet with a parent to address a behavioral issue. And a lot of times we have a lot of in-house collaboration with the teachers, the therapists, the behavior staff. There's a lot of constant communication going on every day, just addressing situations as they come up. There's a lot of flexibility and a lot of energy in terms of the staff. And then the way the police play a role in that is they are able to reinforce some of the legal aspect, but not in the traditional sense of scaring the children into thinking bad things are going to happen. They have provided, I think, a really steady support. They're in the school pretty much all of the time. We have one officer there at all times, and we've developed good relationships with the
Now that's
officers
an
that we work
off-duty
with.
officer that Beacon pays to help provide the security.
Yes, we have police officers that actually work for us, and so they are off duty as police, but they are present as staff at Beacon. So it's a really unique situation, and the students have learned that they are supportive. They want the best for the students, just as all the rest of the staff do. And then on the other side of that, the officers can educate the students in terms of behavior choices that they're making that if they made outside of the school maybe would have larger consequences. So it's a good learning tool for the students to hear from a police officer, hey, this is what happened today. I understand where you were coming from, but this is something that could happen if you do this again.
Now you and Dr. Gross, the principal, and one of our officers presented at a conference not that long ago. Can you talk a little bit about that presentation and how it was received? And
we actually presented at an educational conference to talk about the collaboration between the police department and the school, because there are a lot of schools or agencies similar to ours that deal with students that have behavioral issues, which sometimes can escalate and sometimes it can get to the point of violence. So people want to feel safe and prepared, but they also want to feel like they're taking a therapeutic approach. I think a lot of people have had less success with collaborating with the police, and so we wanted to show our model and show how you can find a middle ground between police and clinical aspects, and that a lot of that comes from the communication and the relationship building. And it comes from us asking the police why things are done a certain way, them explaining their perspective, as well as them in turn learning from us and being very open and willing to see the way we do things. And I think we've come to a nice balance where we have a good relationship and we are able to intervene effectively because everything we're using comes from a positive place.
that's wonderful. And I know a little bit in terms of, I've heard that the local police have really felt like the participation and working for Beacon has helped them understand a lot of our students and their behaviors and how they sort of interact in the community and in not always positive way, and have helped them respond differently to those students. Can you talk a little bit more
Definitely.
about that?
One of our officers, who's actually a detective, has said that he has changed his approach in different situations. And so I think it shows that a lot of the skills that come from the clinical realm can be effective in law enforcement, and I believe the same is true the other way, that some of the skills in law enforcement with setting limits and consequences can be very effective in the clinical realm. And our officers have genuinely shown gratitude for the skills that they've learned with us, and we're very appreciative of their help in return.
Great. Can you talk a little bit more about the vocational and the therapy programs and the impact that they have on attendance for students?
I think that they have a big impact on attendance because, again, with the vocational program, there's that motivation to be there every day. If you miss a day of work, you will not receive your stipend. So it's just like a real job. If your attendance is sporadic or inconsistent,
you don't get paid.
You're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
And I think the therapy program is also very motivating because students really look forward to their sessions. They come in the door first thing in the morning, they're asking their therapist who's at the front door, am I seeing you today? And so I think there's a lot, it really attests to the relationships. We have a wonderful therapy team that have built really good relationships with our students, and they look forward to those sessions. And I think that it's important for them to be present at school so that they're able to utilize those services.
What kind of skills do the therapists work with the students on building?
I think it crosses the board. I think sometimes they're working very much on how are you going to transition out of high school? And they look at all the components of that, emotionally, the practical aspect of that. I think they also are looking a lot at some of the past issues that students have faced. They're looking at how what has happened to you in the past affects you now, and how the fact that you're an adolescent and you are responsible for your behaviors and you can no longer let yourself become out of control in certain situations, how that impacts them and how they can learn skills, I think, to process their emotions more effectively, to express their emotions more effectively, and to just be generally more effective and also happy people.
So a lot of the skills that also will help them develop more relationships as they get out of high school.
Right.
And maintain those relationships because they're not ruining them by or alienating people through their behavior.
Right. And our goal is to leave the students in a really positive place when they leave so that they're not relying on us as well. We are wanting to make sure that they're independent and that they're able to go out into the world and be independent people and, like you said, have the skills to build new relationships once they've left Beacon.
Now I'm going to post another picture. This is the computer lab in the high school. All the keyboards are mounted under the desk, and the screen is actually going up through the glass, so it helps keep it a little bit safer, but allows each student to be working on a computer. So, can you talk a little bit about some of the measures that Beacon utilizes to measure success in the school program?
Sure. We have a lot of different ways to look at success that are ways that are very concrete. We do have, of course, grades because it's a school. The teachers also have anecdotals, so they're documenting the behaviors in the classroom on a daily basis. And additionally, we have behavior staff who are completing incident reports or behavior reports of times the students maybe need a little bit of a quiet time or time outside of the classroom. So we can really see day to day what's happening across the milieu, across the whole school. We also have some standardized measures. We use something called a CBCL, Child Behavior Checklist, that allows us at 6-month intervals to measure progress. And we can get the opinion of the teacher, we can get the opinion of the student, and we can also get the opinion of the parent. So we're looking at it from different angles, comparing data. And so it's a really great tool to look more analytically at data.
Great. We're starting to get a little bit low on time, so before we say anything further, let me just post. This is our Beacon Bash, Thursday, July 21st at Joe's Sports Bar on Weed Street. Tickets are available. You can contact Peggy Rourke for tickets at 773-298-6441. Just to wrap things up a little bit, can you just talk a little bit about what you think makes Beacon unique and why should people support Beacon?
Well, I think Beacon is unique because it's an agency that's really rooted in the community. I think that Beacon has a lot of programs to offer that all combine together in terms of helping children and families. And it's a wonderful agency. I think the work that we do at the high school is very important, and the work that the agency does at large is great.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. Our time is up. Good night.
Good.